That is crazy. That is bananas. Like, what is even happening? What is even happening? Hi you guys, welcome back to the Clean Beauty Code. I'm so excited for this video. We're doing another review. We're doing a try on. We're reviewing concealer, which is arguably one of my favorite products. Some concealer, obviously. I mean, maybe you can't tell because I'm in studio lights, but your girl is in need of some coverage. I'm looking real tired. I have my whole face of makeup done but my under eyes, and I'm ready to slap some makeup on. So we're going to be reviewing the KULFI concealer, and I'm really excited to get into this video. I do believe KULFI actually just launched at Sephora, which is really cool because before I only got their I got their products from their website, so it's nice to see that they also are available now at Sephora. It's so exciting to see new brands launch there. So I just kind of want to jump in and get started with this review. So we're going to be doing a try-on full review. So if you're excited for this video and more videos like this, then please like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into this KULFI concealer review. All right, you guys, I came in a little bit closer. I'm excited to get into this. I've talked about KULFI before. I've used their eyeliner on camera before. I'm a really big fan of their eyeliner. It's super long lasting, and although it isn't a sharpening one, which I know some people have a really strong opinion about whether or not something should, like, they don't love a twist up. It's a twist up one, but it's really good. It's creamy, but it's super long lasting. I don't know. It's a really, really good one. Definitely check that out. And I do think that, I don't know if I mentioned this, KULFI just launched at Sephora. They're available at Sephora now, which is really nice because everything I ordered previous was always from their website. So it's nice to see that they're available at Sephora. Love to see that for small brands. Okay, so let's get into it. KULFI. So this is their concealer. I got the shade Mango Drop. I wanted something that was more on the side of neutral. In general, for my under eyes, neutral is usually the way to go. Sometimes, like, stuff that tends to be more on the yellow side, unless it's a corrector or something like that, but stuff that tends to be on the yellow side, it's not great on me, and stuff that tends to be more on the orange side just looks a little bit crazy on me. Just for my undertones, I tend to skew, again, more neutral, warm, and when in doubt, and I only have the option of either warm or neutral, I go neutral. This is a good neutral. So let's get into it. Again, I got the shade Mango Drop. Let me kind of swatch this here for you. So that is the shade Mango Drop. We're going to apply it to my face and blend her out with a sponge. Now, again, this is, I'm going to only apply a little bit first so you can kind of see. So this is as much as I'm going to apply. This is more of a medium coverage concealer, which if you like more full coverage, you can kind of build it up to be a little bit more than medium, but this is definitely more medium than anything else. I'm going to actually blend it out with a beauty sponge. You can blend it out with your fingers, a brush, and a beauty sponge. I actually prefer, right now, I'm in a beauty sponge kind of place where I'm preferring to blend out all my stuff with a sponge. I feel like I go through kicks. Does anyone else feel like they go through kicks where they're like, I only want to use a brush or I only want to use a sponge, and then like you go through it 6 months of like only using that one thing and then you go back to the other? Is it just me, or are you normal? So that is, I didn't apply a lot, and that is the coverage there. So that is definitely medium coverage. Again, I didn't apply a lot. In general, my preference is not to apply a lot of concealer. I know some people like to go ham. Love that for you. That's amazing. For me, it's a little bit at a time. This is one that doesn't set up like immediately, so you kind of have time if you want to layer. So we're going to do another layer just so you can kind of see how it applies once it's layered. So I'm going to take a little bit more right here, like that. And again, I'm going to take a sponge and we're just going to blend, blend, blend. So I do find in general for my under eyes that on this side, I'll have more darkness peeking through down here. And on this side, my darkness is kind of focused more towards the top. So on this side, it's more apparent because the darkness that peeks through tends to be lower down, and this one tends to be higher up. And usually I take eyeshadow and kind of blend it, a brown eyeshadow, and kind of blend it on my bottom like lash line, so then it's not as apparent with the darkness up here. But that is kind of what it looks like. This gives more of a, it's not like a sheen, but it has a little bit more of a sheen, but it doesn't give a sheen quite like, let's say, the Say Beauty one, which gives a lot more sheen. So again, this is more medium coverage. It says that it is something that is self-setting, which the second something says self-setting, my mind goes to Sahara. Sahara, dry Sahara. We are in the desert. You know what I mean? Because just see that those words just make me think something's going to be drying. And I was pleasantly surprised because this is not drying at all. So this is what it looks like. And this is kind of how it sets up. It sets, but it doesn't, I don't know, it has a sheen to it. So it's not one of those that like spackles itself down to your skin, if that makes sense. But it doesn't move. So I kind of want to move into the review and then let's talk about it comparably to other concealers that I have that I've talked about a ton on this channel. So again, this is meant to be more self-setting. And what I want to say about this is, yes, it is. It is self-setting, but it's not drying. It has a little bit of a sheen, which I like. It kind of gives me, but it's not like wet looking. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it's not a natural finish, but it's not like a dewy finish. It's like, it has a little bit of something. And what I like about that, and something that I've learned that I've kind of recently learned, is I like something with a little bit of a sheen to it. Natural finish can have some sheen at some time, especially throughout the day as like the day goes on, but a little bit of sheen because it almost like deflects off the darkness that is on your under eyes. And I really, really like this. So this definitely self-sets. And what's interesting about this is I tested it where I let it sit under my eyes and dry down and like kind of bake, if you will, and then blend it out. I did it like I did today where I apply it and blend it out immediately. I've applied it with blending it out with my finger, with a brush, with a sponge. Now, my favorite way right now is to blend it out with a sponge, but it blends out beautifully with fingers and it blends out beautifully with a brush. So I want to kind of show you on the back of my hand how it blends out with a brush and with fingers. So I'm going to apply a little bit here and a little bit here. So let's, we'll do this side here. I'm going to take a brush. So I'm going to take the Ami Colé brush, which you know is my favorite concealer brush, and we're just going to blend it out. Look how pretty. So you can see here that I blended out. And then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to kind of blend it out with my finger. Can you hear? The rain is crazy today, you guys. And that is it blended out with a finger. And you see how it's like a light sheen to it? It's not like fully matte or anything. It gives like life to the under eyes, which I love. Now, I did not expect, and I want to say this, I did not expect to be so impressed. And like this concealer, seriously, I have creasy under eyes. I don't drink water, so that's part of the problem. And I usually have concealer settle in my fine lines. This one doesn't, even when I don't let it sit. Like if I don't let it sit and bake and then blend it out, that's usually how I avoid creasing. Even when I just blend it out right away, I don't have creasing. Now that is pretty banana sandwiches if you ask me. That is crazy. That is bananas. Like what is even happening? What is even happening? I couldn't believe it because in general, this type of concealer, this is a very like traditional style feeling concealer. The consistency isn't super thick, but it's not thin. It's like that, it's kind of like that perfect combination of, it's just like a very traditional style concealer. It feels very similar to, let's say, if we had an example of like the Ilia concealer. It has kind of that similar vibe. Now, this definitely, again, self-sets. It definitely doesn't settle. It says that it's crease proof, and what I want to say is for someone who usually has settling in their fine lines around their eyes and under their eyes specifically, this one doesn't crease for me, and that's really impressive. The only other concealer I've ever had that like genuinely doesn't crease when I just apply it and like don't like worry about letting it sit or anything like that is the Merit Beauty Concealer Foundation Stick. And there's other ones that don't really crease that much, or they only crease slightly, but with this, I don't notice any creasing. And I have used oil underneath my eyes with this. I have used like eye cream. I have used just face cream under my eyes. I've used a bunch of different combinations, and I have found that all of them worked really well for my under eyes, which is really, really great. I'm actually unbelievably impressed with this mascara. Oh my goodness, girl. Get on task, get on task. With this concealer, and it's quickly moved to the front of my vanity and I'm using it nonstop. I also feel like the tones are amazing, and if you're the type of person that struggles with finding the right tone concealer and you feel like sometimes it's too yellow or it's too orange or it's too something and you want something truly to be more neutral, I am like, this is such a good tone. I mean, look at that. Like, look how smooth my under eyes look. And look how beautiful the tone is. I mean, 10 out of 10. Again, I wear the shade Mango Drop in this, and I'm gonna kind of swatch it next to other ones so you can kind of see where it lies next to my other concealers I'm gonna mention today. So speaking of other concealers, let's move on to compare and contrast to other concealers. All right, other concealers, let's get into it. Wipe it back of my hand. I'm gonna put this on one side just so you can kind of see it. I'm gonna put this here so you can see. So this is Mango Drop in the KULFI concealer. Now let's go and compare it to other concealers. So let's talk about this concealer first because this is one I've already mentioned, the Ilia concealer. This is more of a medium coverage, which is 100% what the KULFI concealer is as well. It has a more traditional feeling type of mascara, like not mascara. Can I stop thinking about mascara? Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm filming a mascara video and like I need to get it together. It has a very traditional feeling concealer. Like it's very much if you went to the drugstore, you grabbed a concealer, that's that consistency, and this gives that kind of consistency, and so does the KULFI one. So let's talk about it. I have the shade Chai and the shade Wasabi. Wasabi is the brightening shade for me, for sure. It's very light. And the shade Chai is more of my everyday shade. So we're going to swatch that. So that is Chai next to it. So the one that's a little bit more orange, but not orange in a bad way. It's still a beautiful match for me. And then the shade Wasabi will be right next to it, which is so bright. It's so brightening for me. So those are those if I say mascara one more time, fire me. Those are those concealers there. And I would say that the Ilia one has more of a natural finish than the KULFI one. The KULFI one has a little bit more sheen to it. Both beautiful. I would say coverage-wise, the KULFI one does have a little bit more coverage than the Ilia one, but they're both very much so medium coverage. You know I'm a huge fan of the Ilia concealers. They're really good. And this one, you know, I will say this one right now, the KULFI one is currently etching this one out. So this one is currently not on my vanity because I'm grabbing her so much. Okay, next. Let's talk Kosas. So Kosas, I want to talk about this next because I know this is a huge one that everyone's obsessed with right now. So this is definitely a little bit of a different vibe. It's a little bit more hydrating, I'd say. The rain is crazy. And I have two shades. Ooh, I just cracked that. Oh man. I just swatched the shade 6, which is my brightening shade, and then I also have the shade 7. So I'm going to swatch both of those for you. Now I would say that the Kosas concealer is definitely a little bit on the thinner side consistency wise, and a little bit more slippy than the KULFI concealer. However, the KULFI concealer, so this is the shade 7, and then this is the shade 6, and then this is the KULFI one. So I would say that you get a little bit more coverage out of the KULFI one than you do the Kosas one. I also feel like although the Kosas one, you don't need to wear like eye cream or anything like that underneath this, or that's kind of how it's meant to be. It's kind of like an eye cream and all in one. This one definitely creases more. It's not like crazy or anything, but this one you definitely get more creasing and a little less coverage than you do the KULFI one. And I feel like with this, I need to use a little bit more product. With the KULFI one, I can literally do like a dot. Not way less than I actually applied today. I really wanted to make sure you got the full scope of it, but way less than I used today, and I'm good to go. With the Kosas one, for me, especially how dark my under eyes are, although I would say the Kosas one is more light to medium coverage, you can definitely get medium coverage out of it. I would say that I have to use more to get that medium coverage, whereas with the KULFI one, I can just use a very small amount. So then that also, if you're someone who it doesn't matter what you use, right? You could put like glue down and then put this down or whatever it is, you crease no matter what. If you're that type of person, less is more for sure, because you avoid creasing. And also a lot of the time for longevity of product, light layers is the way to go. So you do a light first layer, then a light second layer. This one layers really beautifully. I'd say the Kosas one layers beautifully as well, but I do feel like sometimes if I don't wait long enough. I kind of move the product around more than I would with other concealers, but I really like the Kosas concealer. It's great. Okay, next. Ami Collet. So the Ami Collet concealer, I have 2 shades in this. I have the shade 1.5 and 2. And I would definitely say that the this concealer is a little bit more serum-y feeling than the KULFI one, but the coverage I would say is pretty similar. Definitely medium coverage. Again, the Ami Collet is a little bit more of a serum-y feel, so a little bit more slip to it. So these are the Ami Collet ones down here, but I would say also it is a little bit more, I don't know, it kind of, they are a little, like it's, I would say the KULFI one is, a little bit thinner in consistency, like just slightly, but all amazing concealers. Love them all medium coverage. They all really give me what I'm looking for, which is no under eye circles or just looking like I actually slept, which I never do. I'm the worst. Or anyone else just like the worst sleeper. Okay, next, let's go on to this one. So the next 2 I'm talking about are a little bit more full coverage, but I do want to mention them because they are top of my list. So LYS Beauty. I have the LYS Beauty concealer and I have the shade MN2 in this one. This is definitely more liquidy. So this is definitely, I would say, do a little swatch next to it. I would say that it's slightly thicker than the KULFI one, but not by a lot. I would say the KULFI one is, again, a thinner consistency. And it, I don't know how to explain it. Like the KULFI one definitely is a little bit thicker, but it's not crazy. They're both thin, but what I would say is the LYS Beauty one is, first of all, more medium plus coverage. I wouldn't say full coverage for how I like to apply, but medium plus to full coverage. But I would say that the LYS Beauty one is more liquidy as opposed to thinner. That's kind of how I would describe it. I'm obsessed with the LYS Beauty concealer. You know, it's a great one. Shade range, crazy good. Really, really impressive shade range here. And again, this is more full coverage, so it kind of depends on your preference. But I would say like this is great, and you definitely, you know, the KULFI one and the LYS Beauty one are both like incredible concealers. So good. Okay, and then last but not least, we have the Rose Ink concealers, which you know are my favorite. I have 2 shades in this. My true shade is the shade LX100. This is kind of my everyday without brightening. And then I have, I'm running out of space on my hand. And then I have the shade LX90, and this is definitely more brightening and more yellow in tones. I'm gonna put that here. So these 2 here on this end, LX100 and then LX90 down here. And I would say that the Rose Ink, I would say, is also medium plus coverage. I would say that the KULFI one is a little bit closer in coverage to the Rose Ink one when I just do 1 coat of the Rose Ink one layer. I can definitely, so I would say KULFI's like medium, can be medium plus, but definitely a true medium, whereas this one's medium plus coverage. And the consistencies are really similar, I would say. Thickness wise, they're relatively similar. I would say the Rose Ink is a little bit thicker than the KULFI one. And I mean, you know how I feel about the Rose Ink one. It's like my obsession of life. I use it all the time. However, since I've gotten this one, I do want to say, and sometimes it's when you get something new, you're using it more. But what I will say is I have been grabbing the KULFI one more. And I'm honestly like bamboozled. I'm led astray. I am so confused. I can't believe that I'm grabbing something other than the Rose Ink concealer, because that has been my ride or die since I've gotten it. And there has literally been nothing that's replaced it. There have been things that I've added to my routine that are different for different needs, right? But nothing's replaced it. Whereas right now I'm using this as a replacement to the Rose Ink one. Not that I don't still love the Rose Ink one, but this one is just so freaking good. And like the undertones are just unmatched. And I do find that brands who can't get undertones right and sometimes skew super yellow, or like sometimes, for the most part, I would say neutral is always a good bet, because some like neutral's just neutral. It's just easy, lemon squeezy. So it's just, it's just so easy. It's like just the easiest undertone, I would say, that like a large majority of people can use. And for some reason, I would say that like brands just miss on neutral. So this is, I'm just unbelievably impressed with this. And overall, I've been unbelievably impressed with KULFI, and I'm very excited to see, wipe this off before I get it all over my sweater, not my new sweater, I had this for years, but I'm so excited to see what else KULFI comes out with, because everything I've used so far has really just shook me to my core and super, super impressed me. And I would say by far my favorite product that they've come out with so far is their concealer. So I would love to know down below, have you tried the KULFI concealer? If you have, what are your thoughts? What do you think about their shade range? Let me know everything down below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.